You're tuned to The Drive on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. Steelers Nation Radio.
Good afternoon, Steelers Nation. It's The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. Wes Uhler and Matt Williamson with you for the next 2 hours here on a Tuesday where, Matt, things are happening quickly.
Yeah.
We got the Mike Tomlin press conference in the books that we'll get to here momentarily. We got a thrilling Monday Night Football game last night that we have to discuss at some point. And we also partner, just a hair over 24 hours from now, you and I will be on a flight to Dublin, and things are really picking up.
Yeah, and there's things happening around the league, like Jackson Dart is now. We're already benching quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Play callers in Tennessee are getting their jobs switched up. 0-3, people start panicking, and Steelers, say what you want. They're in pretty good shape at 2-1, and Ravens losing last night. Burrow's out. You start looking around the division. Not such a bad place to be in right now.
No, it is certainly not. And with that as well, too, I think maybe you could say optimistic injury news, injury updates,
Okay.
Painted by Mike Tomlin in his weekly press conference today.
I didn't hear any of it, so I can't wait to hear.
Well, here we go. So this part, not surprising. I think everybody saw this coming, but Alex Highsmith has been ruled out. He will not play Sunday in Dublin. We all know that he avoided IR, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
But I think also when you looked at kind of the timeline of there's the bye week after this, give him as much time as possible.
Makes sense.
Hopefully we'll see him in mid-October,
Okay.
maybe week 6 when Cleveland rolls to town after the bye week.
Now, right with Watt and Cam, I thought Herbig was the best player on the field.
Outstanding.
Yeah. I was not a big Will Campbell fan coming out of LSU, rookie, but he was still a top 5 pick or whatever, 6, whatever he ended up going. And that kid had a long day with Herbig.
Yes, he did.
Herbig was phenomenal.
And I wonder what the kind of, if this was Pat's Nation Radio, if we're WEEI, which is the huge sports station in Boston where they all talk about Chatter and the Sox. I wonder how they were talking about Will Campbell yesterday and today. But yes, I think you got to give Herbig a ton of credit. I think that was a ideal matchup for him, and I think he feasted. He certainly took advantage. When you combine that with how Cam Hayward played, how TJ Watt played, I don't think there's any surprises as to why they were able to force so many turnovers, get after the quarterback so many times.
The defensive front looked like the fierce defensive front we thought it could be.
Absolutely.
And even without Highsmith. But, Herbig's an unbelievable replacement. You also got to throw Harmon back in the mix.
I was going to say, nice first look at the first-round pick as well, too.
Yeah, and Benton and Hayward could play a little less. I think they're trusting Y.A. Black a little bit more. Same with Ekwale.
I was going to say, Ekwale.
Kind of become one of my guys,
I think they've kind of started to figure out how they're deploying that defensive line, defensive front, what they're going to look like in base, and it's a very encouraging start. And then, you get hopefully Alex Highsmith back sometime in early October, and then you really feel like you're cooking with something there with that group. But I don't think that surprises anybody that he's ruled out for this Sunday. I think, in fact, we probably all expected that for Alex Highsmith.
The game after the bye, I think it'll be a conversation.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
That home game against Cleveland the second weekend in October is I think when we really start to hope to get some better news about Alex Highsmith. Questionable, have a chance to play, according to Mike Tomlin. The two that we've been discussing in this regard for the last couple weeks, Deshaun Elliott with the knee, Joey Porter Jr. with the hamstring. Both will have to wait and see how they progress throughout the week.
Okay.
But they have a chance to play, according to Mike Tomlin.
We've said over and over that Elliott, even since he's got here, we've talked about how he's a glue guy. He's more important than you think. Then they gave him another contract. He was a great free agent signing. But even just him being out this year, middle of the field defense in the passing game has been problematic. Communication 2 games ago, not this past one, was problematic. I think he's useful that way. The run defense has not been great start to finish, and he's a good run defender for his position. Very important. Porter as well. I don't know what – we haven't dug into the Vikings. We got lots and lots of time. We got a lot of hours from overseas going forward to talk about the Vikings.
Well,
but
6 hours of programming, just you and I.
Just
6
hours,
right. 6 hours of programming from Dublin.
That's awesome. But Addison is back this week, and Justin Jefferson's a total superstar. So every corner you can get, sign me up. And they traded for Thielen.
Yeah. They sure did. They've got talented playmakers.
Yeah.
They're getting healthier on the offensive line as well, too, with Kelly and Darisaw.
Yeah.
And so, we will have, obviously, a lot on that as we roll along. And then finally from Mike Tomlin, expected to play, so probable, if you will, is Darius Slay with that leg issue that we saw him dealing with.
Yep.
Had to exit for a couple series, was able to come back into the game. As you know, and I'm sure most of the listeners know, that's usually a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're injured and you don't return, it's not a great indicator for your following week. When you're injured but you're able to get back in there, that's more encouraging. And
but
so
you never know if something blows up after you're done or adrenaline wears off.
Exactly
or
right.
You know, right.
So you can rule Alex Highsmith out. You can list Joey Porter Jr. and Deshaun Elliott as questionable, and then you could have Darius Slay as probable.
Okay.
That's the latest on the injury front as we sit here on a Tuesday afternoon.
And fortunately, I think we brought this up yesterday. There was no injuries of note suffered last week, so there's nothing new to add to the slate. So all these guys are getting back at it. That's good news. Yeah, real good news.
It is. It absolutely is. And some other things from the Mike Tomlin press conference that I wanted to dive into with you. Kind of maybe a tale of two different stories. Right out of the gate at his weekly press conference, Mike Tomlin discussed the need to be better in possession down situations on both sides of the ball.
Okay.
Agreed. Third and fourth downs for the defense, third down conversions for the offense.
The defense was night and day. I mean, early downs were awesome. Late downs was bad.
Real bad.
Is that a fluke or is it going to be a trend? Let's hope not.
Well, absolutely. The other thing that he discussed, though, was while the offense has had too many lulls, they had those 6 straight possessions, I think, where it was either 3 and out or a turnover. He also talked about how 7 for 8 in the red zone. They are when they get down there into the red zone, they're finishing. You're not trotting Chris Boswell out onto the field like you were doing entirely too often last season.
It's a wonderful safety blanket, but I don't want to pull that blanket out if I don't have to.
Kind of some pointing of Mike Tomlin there of, hey, I want the possession down stuff to get moving in the opposite direction. I want the red zone success for both units, offense and defense, to continue.
Yeah, and again, red zone's really difficult, and we've talked about this quite a bit. They've gone a handful of years of being at the bottom of the league in red zone offense, and
since that 2018 season,
really?
With Ben and Brown and James Conner,
yeah,
they were like second or third in red zone percentage that year. They were one of the better teams in the league in 2018.
Wow!
Since 2019, it's gone south, and in 2019, at least it was understandable because you lost Ben Roethlisberger 6 quarters into the season.
That one's fine.
But
that one I can put aside.
That hasn't been the exception to the rule. That's been a trend that's continued for way too long.
With a different quarterback every year, multiple offensive coordinators. I thought Wilson would help more than he did. I thought he'd be better last year. But maybe it's a fluke, and maybe, Thanksgiving we're talking about how they're not good in the red zone anymore. But this is really, really promising, and I think the quarterback change has a ton to do with it.
A ton to do with it.
A ton.
And then lastly, Matt, from the Mike Tomlin press conference specifics that I wanted to get to with you is obviously, as you can imagine, Mike Tomlin was asked multiple times and gave a few different answers just about the magnitude of this game Sunday in Dublin.
Yeah.
How you navigate knowing that this is different than a typical game, but that also it's 1 out of 17. It's the same regular season opportunity. While it is different, while it is on a bigger stage, while it is in a different country, while it means so much to the history of the Steelers organization and the Rooney family.
Yeah.
Decades and decades in the making, culminating in this moment, making sure to acknowledge that, but also staying business as usual, also staying focused on the task.
It's a challenge, man.
I imagine that's a real challenge.
Yeah, I would think.
It's a challenge for Minnesota.
Oh, of course.
But for the Steelers, again.
But they're kind of the guest, Yeah.
Everybody knows how much Ireland means to the Rooney family and the Steelers organization. Everybody knows, again, how many decades in the making this first regular season. There's been preseason games there before, but this first regular season NFL game in Dublin and the Steelers being the host team and the history of the Rooney family and the organization, the magnitude of that is undeniable.
No question.
But you also have to proceed as if this is another regular season game. We're trying to get to 3-1. We're trying to head into our bye week with a win and some momentum.
And just X's and O's and the team you're playing, this is not an easy team to prepare for.
Big challenge.
At all. I mean, The offense is loaded with playmakers. You mentioned the offensive line. They rebuilt the interior of it and is now back to, is where they want it to be. Darisaw, their best player, was out for a while. The quarterback's only played one game. It's not like you got a lot of tape on him in a Vikings uniform. And the defense is the hardest one in the league to prepare for. It's a nightmare. Flores is a mad scientist.
He sure is. And, that's something that obviously let's talk a little bit about that now. We will do a ton of Viking-specific talk from Dublin on Friday and Saturday with our programming. But, Matt, it's a defense that is multiple. It's a defense that can disguise and confuse the opposition. And, we'll do matchup-specific segments later in the week. But I just think on the surface, Aaron Rodgers and his game brain against Brian Flores and his game brain is maybe at the top of the list as the top of the fight card is the main event in this one.
I 100% agree. So every Monday night, well, actually this week we're doing it a day early. What I do nowadays is we usually record them on Thursdays, but we're doing this one on Wednesday with Missy and Rob. And we do the matchup show basically, and we each so there's 3 matchups on each side of the ball. We each pick one. And this year I've just been sending a group email with 6 or 7 ideas on both sides of the ball or whatever comes to mind. And if they like them, great. If they don't, they don't. First thing I wrote down, Rodgers versus Flores.
It's the main event.
If those two don't pick that one, I am
Tyson
definitely
Ali.
picking that one. I always let those guys pick first, ladies first, and then I'll take the next thing out. But we are absolutely talking about that on tomorrow's show.
Yes,
no question.
And so that to me is a real kind of game within the game.
Big time
is what how Flores tries to confuse Rodgers, how he's able to counter that like he does so well at the line of scrimmage, and how that plays out over the course of 4 quarters. One thing that worries me in that regard, Matt, that I think we have to mention, and I saw you tweeting this morning, it's a Vikings defense that was just had a fantastic performance top to bottom against the Bengals this past Sunday.
Oh, wow, yeah.
But really in limiting what the Bengals were able to do on the ground and forcing them to be one-dimensional and forcing Jake Browning to drop back and try and beat you, and that's obviously a very difficult a proposition when it's not Joe Burrow that you're making do that.
Chase Brown Rodgers or 2 touchdowns, and
Chase Brown had 3 yards on 10 carries.
I know.
I think it was. The Bengals right now are the only team in the NFL averaging less than the Steelers in terms of yards per rush.
Yeah.
That to me is a big concern with what Minnesota's defense was just able to do and completely eliminating Cincinnati's run game as an element for that offense. I obviously have a lot more faith in Aaron Rodgers than I do Jake Browning to be able to counter that. But you also cannot put that entirely on Aaron Rodgers and get into that one-dimensional phase where Brian Flores really has you right where he wants you.
And I wouldn't mind Barrow and Higgins and Chase, too. It's not like they don't have weapons or Browning hasn't had any success at this level. But, the Bengals, not just in this game, have struggled to run the ball all year. As you mentioned, they're right with the Steelers in lowest yards per carry thus far through 3 games. And Brown's had a good rookie year. But you're right. They totally wiped out that portion of it. And then they got the lead, and they had to keep throwing, and the game script didn't help Cincinnati, and the snowball just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and turned into an avalanche. It was a disaster for Cincinnati.
Yes, it was. And part of that is because they are down their quarterback. And when you rely on your quarterback as much as they do, that just is what it is. But another part of that was just how confused, how just
he'll put you in a blender, man.
Had those guys in a blender, the Vikings defense did for the entire course of that contest.
The Vikings should have came to the line on offense, taken every snap and just thrown it in the ground and still won that game. The defense beat them alone.
Exactly right. That's a very good point by you of how many points the defense was able just to put up on the board in their
very opportunistic, very aggressive, extremely well coached, and just highly unorthodox.
Yes.
They'll do things like, remember when Polamalu would come close to the line of scrimmage and look like he's blitzing, And he was one of the only guys that ever had done this ever, and then just sprint down and back into like a cover 2 environment.
But then every once in a while, he'd hop over the line of scrimmage and time the snap.
Right.
And
I mean, they do that kind of stuff, like stuff you don't see. I saw a clip the other day of both safeties coming down, or the safeties and the linebackers just totally exchanged. Like you're not sure what these guys' responsibilities are. And there's holes in it, but it's hard to tell what you're going to get.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. That's and again, that's where you love having Aaron Rodgers as part of this. I mean, I don't think you could have a better quarterback in the NFL right now in terms of the above the neck stuff, above the shoulder stuff.
He's really phenomenal and thriving.
To kind of counter what the Vikings have been doing early on in the season and having people in a blender and having people confused.
Even with his experience, knowledge, and smarts, there'll be 1 or 2 coverages he probably has never seen before, because it's almost like they make stuff on the fly.
Correct.
I mean, because they don't really even fear having a hole in the zone. They just want to cause confusion sometimes. They're like the Joker. They just want chaos.
Introduce a little chaos into the system. And then kind of finally, Matt, as we wrap up this opening segment, this opening salvo here, I liked hearing Mike Tomlin pretty quickly into his opening statement as well, too, crediting the kickoff team and the kickoff coverage.
Good.
And how that was much improved against New England, keeping them inside the 30, making them play on a larger, longer field, something that they were not doing against the Jets and the Seahawks. And in a game against an opponent like the Vikings, where that minutia, those margins are going to matter big time.
Yeah.
That's another. It's not a trend yet, right? They kind of reversed the trend of what we had seen in the first 2 games.
Yep.
I want to see them continue to lock that down and don't give the Vikings any extra inches.
No, that's huge. I didn't realize he brought that up. I'm glad we mentioned it first. We brought it up yesterday. I think we almost slipped our minds like, and the kickoff coverage teams are a lot better too. So, no, keep that up for sure. You can't. Jets had too many, or Patriots had too many long drives, held the ball too long. I mean, you can't give them short fields, or that may have been a way different game too.
Yeah, absolutely. You had, I think it was a 12-play drive and a 17-play drive for New England that resulted in 0 points on each of those.
It's rare, man.
It's nice that you could get it done in that stadium in that moment, but you don't want to bank on that.
Oh, you're holding on for dear life there at the end, right?
You're like the scared kid on the roller coaster, just hoping this ride ends
eventually.
Here. Get me off of this thing quickly. But that's kind of your news of the day, your Tomlin news, your updates there.
Good. Mostly positive
on that forefront, and hopefully this is the week, as again the Vikings are starting to get some reinforcements in the injury and suspension department, particularly on their offense.
Yeah.
I'd like to be saying the same thing about the Steelers defense by the time we get to to Saturday and Sunday and get to Dublin and Croke Park and everything out there.
Addison coming back, Kelly, as you mentioned,
huge.
Darisaw, these are really strong
Van
players.
Ginkel on the defensive side of the ball for them too.
I don't know. We'll get into this stuff once we get overseas, but Hargrave got banged up in this game.
He did.
I'm curious what his status is, or where they're at on him.
We'll get first injury reports from both teams tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's something obviously that we'll keep an eye on and we'll address. Reminder, no drive shows on Wednesday or Thursday.
Right.
But we will have a 3-hour show Friday and a 3-hour show Saturday to make up for you all. Yeah, certainly. I texted our buddy Bob Labriola and told him he was off the hook on this Thursday because there's no Thursday, Thursday edition of The Drive. But hopefully we'll be able to nab some fun guests while we're over there as well.
I think so, yeah.
Maybe some of the DVE morning show people that'll all be there. Missy, Max, maybe some other Steelers alumni that are going to be floating around. I do think Friday's show, I want to say it is, I think Pursuta is scheduled to join us for a little bit of time as well, too. So we're going to have a lot of fun. It's all going to happen really quick, but plenty to get to today, obviously, before we all, I almost said sail off. I hope we're not taking a boat. That would take a long time. Before we all fly off to the Emerald Isle and get ready for a big one at Croke Park in Dublin. Our buddy Chris Adamski covers the Steelers for the Trib, co-hosts the Steelers Blitz here on Steelers Nation Radio. He's going to join us on the other side. Some more updates from down on the south side, and we'll get his thoughts on the challenge that these Vikings are going to present this weekend to the Steelers. All of that and more when we return. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson. It's The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. A busy week for your Pittsburgh Steelers. Plenty of moving and shaking in terms of the usual day-to-day operations. But, of course, this operation is picking up and flying across the pond to Dublin for perhaps one of the more meaningful regular season games in franchise history. Joining us now to discuss, covers the Steelers for the Trib, the co-host of the Steelers Blitz with our guy Tom Opperman. It's Chris Adamski. Buzz, thank you for taking the time as always. We have heard, a chance to play for Deshaun Elliott and Joey Porter Jr. This Sunday. Obviously, for both of those guys and for the Steelers secondary as a whole, getting them back would be massive. I think particularly against this talented Vikings offense as well, too. I know it's still early in this process, and we got to see them practice and their availability and everything, but how are you feeling about the chances to see Joey Porter Jr. and Deshaun Elliott this Sunday at Croke Park?
Yeah, the Elliott thing is a lot more kind of linear and more predictable in terms of his injury. The Porter injury has been sort of lingering for a while. From the very beginning, they sort of, I don't want to say downplayed it, but it didn't get announced as an injury. We went through it. Mike Tomlin after the game said it was kind of precaution. Then he said 2 days later, that Tuesday, 2 weeks ago now, said he was optimistic he'd play. And he didn't practice at all. He didn't practice since. So, dealing with the hamstring thing, that's probably more about it's harder to kind of predict or look at or see how he reacts to it. At least with Elliott's injury, assuming he does practice and assuming there's no setbacks, that seems a little more predictable, and if he's on track you would think that there's a better chance he would play. And I'm just, like I said, I was saying before week one, I was fascinated, and I was going to focus on watching how the Steelers deployed their secondary and all the moving pieces, and then kind of big names and the players they have, and since I said that, they added a whole nother one in Jabril Peppers, and but we kind of got deprived of seeing how they wanted to or intended to or planned to deploy everybody, because they have everybody at full health. So if they do get everybody, again, I'll be fascinated to be keeping an eye on that to see exactly how everybody's used and where they're put and how they're deployed.
Chris, the Elliott situation aside, would it shock you if Peppers moved past Clark on the depth chart or in the pecking order? I think he's the better player, and he certainly runs better.
Yeah, he showed out pretty well there,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I would have thought, if Peppers had been available somehow, late July or whatever it is, and it's if whatever, but you would think he'd be more of a targeted type. I don't know, whatever happened to New England, you're all kind of, speculation, everything, why it didn't work out in New England, why he was cut. But Clark was available, a week after camp started, and there's some injury history there and everything. And Peppers pretty much almost played as much as Clark did this past week as well, and that was after he was 11 days as a Steeler at that point, whenever that was developed, and he played pretty well. Clark showed a little bit of splash too. He kept his hand on the ball in the one interception. He had a little bit more, but Peppers, he's always been a playmaker. He's the type of piece that the Steelers like. He's a Mike Tomlin kind of player, I think, in terms of just that versatility, and he does make big plays, and it sounds like there's that history there and everything, and you definitely can use him. I deploy him a little bit more freely. If that's going back to what I said, I'm fascinated to see how they use everybody. If they do go back to, if Joey does come back and you have your two outside corners more, and seeing with him and Ramsey, man, it could be kind of fun, the kind of things they could do with those two and where they put them and everything.
I guess along those lines, you got Addison coming back this week. I'm just starting to really dig into the matchup. It's early in the week, of course. But Jefferson's a nightmare, and then there isn't an answer for him. Do you think Porter's availability greatly changes the Jefferson plan in any way?
Yeah, man. That'd be one thing. He's sitting out for 2.5 games and maybe a tender hamstring. And yeah, I don't know if they would put Ramsey. I'm sure Ramsey is going to want him. That's for sure.
I would think.
He's going to say he wants him. And there's the school of thought certainly that's something you could do. I don't know if Joey even. I don't know. I always maybe I'm too simple about these things. Joey not the Jefferson small by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't see like Joey as a matchup for him necessarily. But the Steelers don't always. Sometimes they revert to that, where the follow around situation for a top receiver. But yeah, Jefferson. They play Chase twice a year too, and I think those two are kind of kind of head and shoulders in their own tier. And then, like I said, they have to match it up with Chase all the time, and you see hints from that. But yeah, it's a whole nother level in terms of star player. I know they're down a quarterback and everything else, and he hasn't been quite as productive these first 3 weeks as you think of him. But he's still probably, if you did a poll, he's certainly a lot of votes the game's best receiver. That's for sure.
Chris, I guess kind of maybe similar, maybe same church, different pew to the question that Matt just asked you about Peppers. Are we seeing a little bit of a shift in Cole Holcomb, maybe getting a bigger share of the load over Peyton Wilson? Is that something you expect to continue, or was maybe that just a function of Sunday's game plan in New England?
Yeah, I kind of wonder about New England in terms of, you could deploy this sort of matchup specific, and that's what I'd probably have said a month ago. If they knew, once they established that Holcomb was, for full health, I guess they knew that, but back to being at least however close to the player he was before the injury, or the player, maybe you would argue he is the same player. Once they established that and the durability, and got through, they ramped him up, and whether that was intentional from the start or not, but no snaps to, 13 snaps to half the snaps this past game. And now there is a confidence with him. Of course, he made a play early on Sunday, of course, and I think he legitimately has impressed. We hear Mike Tomlin kind of went on and on about him today, in terms of. And remember, they signed him. It's like I forget who I talk to who about now, but there was maybe Patrick Queen's not here if Holcomb doesn't get hurt, and he was supposed to be kind of their answered inside linebacker 3 years ago when he signed the 3-year contract with the Steelers. So they obviously had an eye for him and what he could do, and let's face it. I mean, Peyton Wilson hasn't been. You could say he hasn't been terrible, but he's not exactly stood out and maybe taken that next step that you thought. I mean, the first game he played every snap. I think maybe that was an ideal world where him and Queen play, are every down linebackers, or every down, depending on how you wanted to do your safeties and all that too. So, and I think the struggles against the run, if that's what Holcomb is. So whether it's matchup specific, I mean, I would think it'll probably fall into maybe we see like it was last year, Landon Roberts and Peyton Wilson, how they divide up that labor, and then who you call the starter, I guess, and might be the first snap and what personnel package is out there or whatever. But we'll probably go back to that, and I guess that is the expense of Peyton Wilson being the every down guy that the Steelers envisioned. I'm sure he envisioned when the season started.
Chris, what do you think of the first-round pick, Derek Harmon's debut? And is there a lot of buzz and optimism around the team that you've noticed?
Yeah, I mean, you can't almost right away, right? His first was his second and third snap. He popped right away. He played, I think, more than I thought he would play for his first game, and I thought even maybe they might do the thing, and that might have been. Desperation is probably a strong word, but they needed him out there, I think, right? And I thought maybe it'd be like a ramp up. Where last week he was limited, and this week he'd make his debut even. But the fact that he only had one full practice and they put him out there, I think, is another sign of how much they believe in him for being a rookie. And what you were there for camp, of course. You saw him in practice and everything. I think he does pop, of course, the pedigree and the tape from him from last year and everything. And like I said, they do need some more of that. And yeah, I would expect, again, just from sitting out, he didn't practice for 3 weeks and hasn't played and didn't get a live game. His first NFL game this past week. I expect him to get better, and seeing how he kind of burst on the scene there in the first half of that first quarter, and then he kind of maybe plateaued a little bit. Maybe you could see that for a longer sustained period. So yeah, I think it might be the start, knock on wood if you're a Steeler fan or whatever, to see, I wouldn't declare it yet, but it might be the start of a long career this past Sunday and heading forward.
Chris Adamski with us here, covers the Steelers for the Trib. He's also now part of our Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network family. Chris, I want to ask you just kind of about the vibe with this game ahead down there on the south side and around the facility. I thought Mike Tomlin did a good job of laying out why this game's so important, what it means to the organization, what it means to the Rooney family, what it would have meant to the ambassador, and how much he'll be thinking about him when they get over there. But at the same time, this is business as usual. This is another game. It's a regular season game, 1 out of 17, where they need to take care of business. How how realistically are they going to be able to walk that tightrope this week of being excited, having to get on a flight Thursday night over to Dublin and all the pomp and circumstance that will come at this game, the NFL's first regular season game in Dublin at a historic stadium like Croke Park with over 80,000 people that are going to be there. What's the vibe like? What's the kind of trying to, again, walk that tightrope, that razor-thin margin of recognizing that this game is a big deal, but maybe also just treating it like it's any other regular season game?
Yeah, some of the players, you talk to them, it's definitely a unique experience for them. I mean, what is it? I guess Hayward would have been part of the team when they went to Dublin. There's probably a couple of the veterans that they've had so many veterans come in that probably made a couple games or two somewhere. I'm sure Ramsey, because Jacksonville always plays over in London and all that. So
I know DK.
Some of them
DK played a game in Germany, I believe, when he was with the Seahawks.
Yeah. So you got some of the guys, but all the younger guys, that this is a unique opportunity for even. I mean, TJ Watt's been in the league for 9 years. He hasn't been able to be a part of something like this. And yeah, the whole Ireland thing, I thought it was pretty neat today. Mike Tomlin talking about the Rooney, or Ambassador Rooney, and Mr. Rooney and that family, and what it means, and how they like to, and the players that come here, you could tell, I think that's true, because a lot of them do kind of talk about, and everybody knows the Steelers' history of being in Super Bowls and all that, but I do feel like every time a new veteran comes, they often reference that. So I'm sure they have been sort of, talked to about it, or maybe they ask about it, I don't know, or, they see something, but it does get I don't think it's just lip service when they're talking about that. And yeah, I mean, you guys knew Mr. Rooney. It would have been really cool for him to be part of something, how much Ireland meant to him and means to the family and everything. And it took a while, it feels like, for all these international games, from Ireland to get a game, period. But you got to think, if it, the Steelers connection and the Rooney family connection, maybe there isn't a game in Ireland. Maybe there's in another country in Europe or whatever it might be, the places they've been and everything. So you got all that up. It is pretty neat, and I think it will be an experience. I do wonder if, in terms of keeping a business trip, right, the fact that they're leaving Thursday night and not maybe earlier in the week, I wonder if that's, I mean, there's not going to be much time there's not going to be any tourism really by the players. And, by the time they touch down and get sleep and practice that first day, all of a sudden it's the day before a game, and you get your meetings and everything else. So there really isn't much, I would think, in terms of the schedule, just thinking of it myself, it's kind of frenzied, and before you know it, they're playing a game, before you know it, they're back home again. So in the sense of focusing on the game, it sounds like maybe that's part of the intentionality of choosing to leave when they did. And I think the players really are going to have to, because by the nature of things will come at them fast, Friday practice, Saturday walk-through meetings and all that, before you know it, they'll be playing a game, and it won't even really register to them kind of that in terms of the routine and what they're doing to prepare for it.
So the Steelers have a winning record. We know that, but we also know, and all our listeners know, that there are a lot of areas that still need work. And the biggest concern for me that it won't get fixed, or might just not be ever a strength this year, is the Steeler running game. I'm not saying it won't. It's just the one I feel the least confident will come around. Do you agree?
Yeah, there were questions. It's crazy. It's weird. Well, I shouldn't say it's crazy or weird, but it's this might sound like a dichotomy or something here, but I kind of feel better about Jaylen Warren as an every down running back.
Agreed.
Watching these last couple games,
he doesn't worry me.
Game and whole, yeah. And I don't know if I would have necessarily. I wanted to see it at least, right? I think the way I've talked about it is, with Warren, is I'm not saying he can't do it, but there's going to be a little trepidation until I start seeing, and to be fair, I was just going to say, in a situation where you wouldn't lean on Najee Harris in the past, where you get an early lead and then you're running more, but that's kind of what happened last week, and it didn't really work out too well in terms of the middle part of that game, whenever you traditionally would want to lean on that style of running or that style of running game. And yeah, it's funny because you asked earlier, and I didn't really answer that part of your question about the team being excited about Derek Harmon. And where I'm going with this is, I was going to answer that in the affirmative. That yes, I really get the sense from the coaching staff and the teammates about that. But then I was going to sort of couch it by saying I felt the same genuine I mean, and I get their first round picks and all that, and that's part of the reason why is that pedigree. But I felt a genuine sort of like, wow, this Falatonu is just going to blow people away. This is going to be, he's great. Look at the way he moves. He's going to just really hit the ground running and be, a high level starter immediately. And over the first 3 games, it hasn't been immediate. Now that doesn't mean it's going to happen. Not going to happen, or of course you're giving up on him, or he's anything like that at all. I'm just saying that he hasn't stood out. That's been kind of I guess something that I almost penciled in is like, oh, even though he only played 1 NFL game, right, that people were so high on him that, oh, okay, right tackle's fine. That's going to be great. Center's great. And at the same time, you're dealing with all those guys. I mean, Frazier's now at 20 career starts, whatever it is. McCormick's at 16 career starts, and Falatonu's at 4 career starts. So you go up into Broderick Jones. How many does he have? 30 maybe? So you're going up and down this, and there's still a very young offensive line, other than your left guard, of course, and that's also been, another thing where I kind of, he's saying Malu's fine, penciled in, and that hasn't worked out either. Now there's a track record there, unless you start to worry about him being, whether it be is the injury catching up with him or getting age, and you got the pedigree with the other 4 essentially. So I still think it can be okay, but yeah, like you put it, there's a point where, it is what, we're 3 weeks in. After 1 week, it's 1 week sample size, two games, okay. Now you're 3 games in. So if things linger on for another game or 2, there's no longer a small sample size to explain this away. And it's kind of, they are who they are at that point, right?
Yeah, and 2.8 yards per rush attempt in the first 3 games is certainly not paint a pretty picture.
Not cutting it.
Chris Adamski, co-host of the Steelers Blitz here on the Steelers Audio Network, covers the black and gold for the Trib. Buzz, thank you for the time, partner, as always, and we'll talk to you next week.
Always a pleasure, guys. See you then.
There he is, Chris Adamski. Before I cut him off there, dropped his call there, should ask him, he likes to wear those Irish caps. That's kind of like one of his signature
one of his
things.
looks, right?
I should have asked him where to get a good Irish cap over there in Dublin. Maybe I'll text him and get that information.
I bet one of our
him.
listeners could help us out.
Sure, it's probably like finding French fries on a sandwich in Pittsburgh. It's probably not too difficult to find yourself an Irish cap over in Dublin. When we return to close down the first hour, a little Tuesday rewind. Some maybe final or extra observations after rewatching the Steelers game yesterday. We'll get into those and maybe kind of put the final pin in the Patriots conversation before all eyes fully turn to Ireland and those Minnesota Vikings. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson, it's The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. It's Tuesday rewind time. It's a very simple concept with a catchy name. It's just some final thoughts about the Steelers' previous game. Mm-hmm. We've had a chance to do some rewatch and some deeper dives into it at this point. Matt, quite simply, I do feel like we've done a pretty good job combing over all the details of that win in New England, just because we know how quickly we're going to have to turn the page here this week and kind of how little time we had to get into the weeds and into the forest of that game. But kind of final thing to kick around for you, and we touched on this a little bit in the opening segment, but wanted to get back to it. I think they've found their ideal base alignment on defense.
Okay.
Hayward, Aquale, Harmon. Do you agree?
Yeah, I don't know if they agree. I mean, that might leave Benton a little out in the cold, because Aquale only played 13 to 15 snaps, something in that neighborhood. But I think
Harmon and Y.A. Black will still get more snaps than Aquale. But that's
kind of how I was wanting to phrase it.
That's my ideal base formation right now is those 3.
Me too. I agree with you. I think they probably agree with us, and I think that's the best way to do it. We know that their base 3-4 isn't going to be used exclusively, or
it's like 30% of the time.
Right. It's not like a starter in basketball and you bring the 6th guy off the bench.
Correct.
The nickel and dime could easily and probably will be used even more. But I think that's a great way to do it, is if those 3 are there when you need 3 of them out there more often than not, and Cam could take a breather still, or mean, all these guys could.
Absolutely.
And you have Benton and Black, quote, off the bench. I know it doesn't work that way. Now you're cooking.
Those are two pretty good players to be running in from the sideline.
Right. Like when they devised this thing, we had similar things in mind, but I didn't count on as much from Ekwale. He's outkicked my thoughts for him. And certainly when they drafted Y.A. Black, that's a nice pick, but I didn't look at him as a regular contributor. I mean, he's better than I thought, too.
No doubt.
Benton, to me, I expected more from this point, but I'm hoping his role can be more conducive to what he does well. I mean, if he's so when you have the four-man front and there's only two of those people out there, you'd love it to be Hayward. But if it isn't and it's Benton and Harmon, that's not bad either.
No.
I mean, if he's your early down, your 3-4 stuff is, the more important role, and Cam's only out there some on, nickel and dime. Okay. It just gives you a lot of flexibility. There's a lot of options there.
And that's what we envisioned
when
we all gathered in Latrobe at the end of July.
Exactly. Right. I thought it was a really deep D-line group.
Thought it was a very deep group, and that was even before I think we all had the expectations for Y.A. Black that we have now.
Yeah.
His expectations have grown in that time period. We were all obviously high on Harmon and Hayward, and I think Benton, maybe not quite to that extent, but certainly as well too. This is, I think, how you start to get to the defense that we're all optimistic they can become.
Yeah.
Is by obviously
that's going to be the foundation.
Starting to win more in the trenches.
Yeah.
And as you get healthier there, as you have a lot of bodies to rotate in and out and stay fresh there, to help your rookies who are trying to get up to speed.
2 rookies getting more experience. Yeah.
Keeping Cam Hayward from, running all the tread off his tires early in the season.
That worried me a lot early on.
It's a great it's the ideal balance that I think they're starting to develop there.
Yeah. And this was their vision when the draft was over, when they went to camp, and you even had a Lowry in there who was kind of an innings eater type guy, and Logan Lee is a guy name we haven't mentioned. They lost Loudermilk, and frankly, I didn't know if Loudermilk would make the team whenever the 90-man roster,
when Dean Lowry was still in the picture.
There was more guys involved. So I think this has been the vision all along, and it's a good one. And they've invested a lot in the cornerback position. They've made a trade at safety. They've added some safeties. They've been aggressive on the second level as well. But the foundation of this D, and it always will be, is the front line, including Watt, Highsmith, Herbig. I mean, the people on the line of scrimmage. That goes back to it goes back to Joe Green.
Yeah, totally.
I was going to say it goes back to Hampton and Smith and Lloyd and those guys, but it goes back to Joe Green.
100%.
Right, yeah.
100%. The Steel Curtain, baby.
Yeah.
One of the great nicknames in the history of sports.
So I think that's a real promising place to start for what the defense is now, starting in this game and going forward, is at least that line should be really good. I mean, I think it's still the best defensive line in the league. I know that took a little bit of shrapnel,
You did.
I mean,
got some strays there for that one.
Yeah.
But it's
especially the run defense stuff. But
I think you and I have been saying this since July as well, too. There's clearly a plan.
There's clearly a plan.
Now, like everything, Mike Tyson, everything, it's great till everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face or punched in the mouth, right? You deal with some injuries. You deal with some guys not quite performing the way you thought they were going to right out of the gate. But I think the plan has always been there. It's starting to come together. Maybe took a week or two longer than we all wanted. But that, to me...
And Tomlin's going to be good at adjusting on the... I mean, anyone that's coached over 10 years as a head coach has dealt... I mean, every team comes in with a plan, and none of it ever goes to
And then you
script.
get punched in the mouth.
Right.
You get
never
injured.
goes to
You
script.
get...
Yeah. And he knows how to adapt as anyone out there. I mean, you can complain, he should go for it more on fourth down. You can have your complaints about the head coach, and sure, that's fine. But understanding how the league works and what all unforeseen things that are coming your way, and there's a lot more coming, and most of it's bad. I always say to people, most of it's bad. I mean, some of it might be a pleasant something or other. Wow, Roman Wilson turned into a great player.
Wow, look at Y.A. Black. He's way ahead of schedule.
But most of it's bad. That's coming down the pipe.
It's mostly you're going to have to navigate the first month of the season without Joey Porter Jr. and Deshaun Elliott.
Yeah, Benton's not a nose, or whatever it is, or man, they just got 3 O-line injuries in the same game. What are we going to do? That stuff happens all the time.
It certainly does, but I think they are going to be stronger for some of those setbacks on the defensive line in the early season. And hopefully that really continues and carries over, and they build upon it Sunday against the Vikings, because that would go a long way against
3-1 in the bye.
offense.
Coming up a bye would be real nice.
Outstanding.
Because you got a long stretch after that bye. I don't love the early bye.
I don't either. I do love getting
I
love getting the bye when we're coming back from Dublin, because we're all going to be wiped out for our own personal sakes. But in terms of how it falls in the schedule,
that post-bye is not going to be an easy run, and it's going to be a long run.
it's going to be a gauntlet.
Yeah.
And hopefully they're positioning themselves adequately for said gauntlet. Hour in the books, another hour to go. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson, a little fantasy football focus when we return to start hour number 2. It is The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Good evening, Steeler Nation. It's The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson. Hour number 2 coming at you here. Our last hour in studio this week before we fly off to Dublin tomorrow night. Thursday will kind of be Labs was giving me grief for this. Labs was like, no show Thursday. He's like, but you guys are leaving Wednesday night. What's the problem? Why aren't you doing a show Thursday? I was like, well, see, Labs, the way our schedule's set up, we're going to have to kill some time. First of all, you have some DVE responsibilities.
Yeah.
I have to go to Croke Park with our producer Dan Quinlan to test all the lines and see our setup and all that stuff. As you know, we're doing a broadcast in a new stadium 3,000 miles away that we've never been to.
It's a foreign land.
It's in a foreign country. So we have to do that
I have
Thursday.
No idea like what our sleep life will be and
Bad.
when we wake up.
Terrible.
It's going to be not good. Yeah,
I think at best
cares,
we'll get like 5 hours of sleep on the plane at best, if we're lucky.
And it won't be good sleep. Right?
No, it will not. It'll be sitting up, vertically in a chair type sleep.
I'm bad at time zones. I don't mean to interrupt your
go
thing
for it.
here, but there's been so many times in my career that, hey, can you do a hit in Omaha, Nebraska, or blah, blah, blah.
What time is that?
Yeah, and I'll be like, tell me, after my first year at ESPN, I'm like, just tell me the Eastern Standard Time, because otherwise I've screwed them up way too often. And this is going to mess with my brain in a big way.
Huge. We're 5 hours ahead of our time zone here. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the weird thing is I do this Peacock and Williamson podcast.
Yes.
And he's on the West Coast in San Francisco.
8-hour time difference.
Right.
Oh, Lord.
I'm like, I might be able to do a show for you. I know Thursday I told him I'm out. You got to find a replacement.
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe Friday after I kind of get the lay of the land. But I'm like, I don't know how on earth we're going to coordinate when we can do an hour with an 8-hour time difference. Like, I'm not going to ask you to do it at midnight. You're not going to ask me to do it at 4 a.m.
Correct.
It's just. So when we get to the hotel, my little lizard brain can't figure this stuff out.
Okay, you
when
ready?
we get to the hotel, what time, Irish time, do you think it'll be?
About 10 a.m., I would guess.
Okay, so in their world, we flew overnight the whole time.
Correct. We're going to land, I think, about 7:30 in the morning, and then we'll have to do customs and all that stuff.
Yeah, nothing will be happening quick.
Get our bags, and then we have a bus taking us to the hotel. I think that'll be around 10-ish, probably by the time we get through the airport and customs and on the bus and to the hotel. Thursday, 10 a.m. We can't check into our rooms, though, right away because, it's still in the morning type thing.
Right.
So I think they're going to we're going to have a ballroom and stuff there where we can put all of our stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're all going to get back on buses and go to the stadium. I think that's when you and Pursuta are going to do your show. We're going to test everything there.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to set up our not you and I, but the general we of everybody there. Needs to go to the Fitzsimons Temple Bar, reminder, where we'll be doing the shows all day Friday and Saturday to obviously set all that up.
Yeah.
So Thursday's kind of like a get there, get our bearings, find out where we're going, get the broadcast set up type day.
Okay.
And then Friday we can really hit the ground running. DVE morning show will be on for 4 hours before you and I go on for 3 hours.
So probably none of us will get to the hotel, walk right in our room, fall asleep.
No.
No. That's probably not how it's going to work.
And any international time traveler will tell you don't want to do that anyways, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you want to stay up. I know your dad has been drilling that home for you because he's traveled internationally a lot.
If you can get as much as you can on the flight.
My father, as you know, violinist in the symphony for 36 years. He went to Europe all this. He's been he always jokes.
I bet he's been everywhere.
The only place he hasn't been is Alaska in this world. Like he always jokes that. But he came over last night to bring me charger converters. You know,
I bought two. I got one in each bag in case I lose one. Right?
Different charger outlets. And my dad was like, don't spend money on those. I've got 1 million of them. Okay. So he stopped by last night to drop those off and to say hello to his grandkids for a few minutes. And he said to me 5 times, don't go to bed on Thursday. Don't go to bed on Thursday.
Like during the day.
Don't go to bed on Thursday.
Like when you get there, you're gonna
get whatever
that bed's
sleep.
gonna look really good when you walk into that room.
He's like, fight the urge, because he's like, you will never get yourself back on track if you go right to bed as soon as you get there.
Have
Thursday.
one tough day.
Have one tough day Thursday. Go to bed early-ish.
I would say early-ish. Right.
And with the
even
time,
if you're in bed like 9 o'clock their time.
Fine.
Yeah.
Who cares? I got a Guinness. I got a Guinness tour Friday morning, anyways, too. So I will be going to bed early Thursday night. But that's kind of to peel back the curtain for everybody what we're looking at. So no shows Wednesday for travel. We arrive Thursday, set up, bearings, all that stuff.
I wouldn't be on top of my game on a Thursday show anyway. Would slog through it and it'd still be entertaining.
You and Pursuto will have fun doing, I think, your hour. I mean, it'll only be an hour, but
Merrill carries the ball, right.
You guys will be rightfully, I think, pretty gassed, as we all will be. Listen, Matt, like that kind of travel stuff is tough when you're in your 20s. If you're a young person still, with our age, it's going to be a little difficult, but it'll be a lot of fun. A lot of coffee will be going down Thursday.
I would think so, right.
I think also Thursday, I think they're going to take us to lunch while we wait for our hotel rooms, I've been told.
Okay.
And I think we might swing past the Steelers have a pro shop, like a team shop set up in downtown Dublin as well, too, with a bunch of merchandise and gear and memorabilia.
Right.
So I think we might be swinging by there on Thursday as well too, which will be cool. Maybe we can get some souvenirs and some stuff like that then.
We'll be like celebrities in there.
I hope so. The Steelers have their own pro shop set up in downtown Dublin.
They're the only team that does, I assume.
The Vikings do as well too.
Well, okay. Is the Vikings there year round?
No. This is all temporary.
This is just temporary.
Okay. The NFL has one as well. So there's a Steelers pro shop, a Vikings pro shop, and a NFL pro shop in downtown Dublin. 3 different apparel places.
Gotcha.
The Vikings and Steelers one's obviously team-specific. The NFL one has a ton of Vikings and Steelers stuff, but also stuff from, you could probably walk in there and get a Garrett Wilson jersey or something. You know what I mean? A Jets scarf like they like to have over there.
Like there'll be someone in a Mahomes jersey at the game.
1,000,000%.
Yeah.
I bet
we'll probably see close to every team.
I was just going to say we should try and keep a tally and see if we can see all 32
like that
teams
license
there.
Plate game. Like
it's
exactly really hard to get Hawaii.
Exactly right. Yeah. There's also a Steelers bar, Fitzsimmons Temple Bar, which is going to be our headquarters for all of our shows that Matt and I will do, that DVE will do, that everybody else will do on Friday and Saturday. The Vikings have their own bar set up where they're doing the same thing.
Nice.
The Packers and the Chiefs also have bars set up in Kansas City in Dublin, this week, because they are the other 2 teams with Ireland rights, if that makes sense.
It does to me. It probably doesn't to most, and I would do a bad job explaining it.
But
every team has like territories almost.
Where you're allowed to market, where you're that's why the Steelers are hosting a game in Dublin.
And not
Germany.
Brazil or whatever.
Brazil,
right?
Australia.
Like I think the Steelers have a big Mexico City,
big Ireland.
Yeah.
And I think a little bit like almost every NFL team now has a share in London because it's just it's become they play multiple games there every year.
But I think the Steelers have the most or tied for the most territories.
I believe
they're so popular.
I believe so. Right now, Ireland I think is only Steelers, Packers, Chiefs. And maybe Vikings, but I don't even know if the Vikings are.
The Vikings are one of them, right?
So the Packers and the Chiefs.
I knew there were some rumors that maybe the Packer game would be there.
Correct.
This would be Steelers-Packers. Right.
To peel back the curtain a little bit, I think part of the reasoning for that is the Packers said, hey, if we're going to get Ireland rights, we'd rather just host a game there in the next year or 2.
Yeah, maybe I would bet they're the next host.
They wouldn't be going to play this game against the Steelers and then be going back there again next year to host a game. Like, that just doesn't make much sense.
And I know when the schedule came out, Aaron Rodgers was not a Steeler, but would you rather have Steelers-Packers at 9:30 Eastern
That's a great point.
Sunday night?
That's a great point. They don't want that kicking off at 6:30 in the morning on the West Coast.
Right.
They want that on Sunday night. On Sunday Night Football. That's a great point by you.
Yes.
But if you're kind of reading the tea leaves there and trying to forecast, I think there's a very good chance you'll see the Packers and the Chiefs playing games in Ireland sooner.
They're probably the next two hosts
rather than later. But they have pop-up bars for the weekend as well too. Packers and Chiefs as well. The Dublin map is insane. I think Teresa emailed it.
Yeah, I
emailed it
didn't
to
open
us.
it yet, but I'm going to check it out tonight.
So much going on and going to be so much fun for everybody there.
So she has all this stuff laid out on there, too.
She does.
This is the Vikings bar.
Yes.
Don't go in there.
Don't go in there. No. There's too much purple in there. We'll get
Yeah.
beat up. No, we'll be doing the beating up, okay?
Heck yeah, we will.
We got Max Starks with us, baby.
Yeah, we'll take him with us.
Speaking of which, I didn't show you the picture, did I?
No, I know he's on a terrible towel tour, which is pretty hilarious.
My aunt and my two cousins ran into him in Killarney last night.
Are they over there just for the game, or do they live there?
It's my family. They live in Tennessee, and they flew out Saturday. Like they're going over for like 10 days, making a huge.
Yeah.
You know, my aunt, my uncle, and two of my cousins and their husbands. So 6 of them going over for like 10 days, all throughout Ireland. Last night, they're sitting at a pub in Killarney at like 10 o'clock at night and walking down the street. My cousin Hannah's like, "It's Max Starks." And they all pour out of there, and I get a picture, of Max in the middle of the street with my aunt and my 2 cousins, and it was awesome. It gave me some big FOMO to get over there. That's for sure.
That's cool. Nice.
So so there's kind of a little bit of a lay of the land for you to peel back the curtain a little bit. Now, Matt, let's get into some fantasy football focus here, like we were supposed to do in this segment. Hey, we're excited. We're going to be having plenty of that this week. But Matt, a couple of different things that I want to talk with you about. Namely, let's start here. Quinshon Judkins. Is he about to take off? Is it a good time if you're someone like me who's had him stashed on your bench for the last couple weeks? Could he be thrust into a big role for that Cleveland offense?
Yeah, I think so. Now, he could get suspended still at any time.
He could.
I mean, he's been cleared by the police, but the NFL might see it different. They always can. It's like there's
kind
two
of
different.
Like Tyreek Hill still. A lot of stuff up in the air there.
Yep, 100%. Now, Sampson was pretty promising while Judkins was out, the other fellow rookie. And Ford, to me, is just a guy. And I think we know that while the Browns' defense is really, really good, their offense is going to be poor, and it's not going to be the richest most fertile fantasy grounds out there. But he sure looks like he's going to get a very big role if last week was an indicator, which is how you do these things. So, yeah, I mean, it might be the last time to grab him. I mean, I would imagine in almost every league he's been picked up or drafted. But,
especially if you're in 12-team or 14-team.
Yeah, but I would think I would be comfortable flex RB2, getting him in your lineup now.
I think I had him on my bench this past week, and he had a nice game. But
might
be the last time.
To see it first.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Maybe kind of similar conversation, although it's due to the unfortunate injury. Hate to see that for James Conner.
Yeah, 2 former Steeler running backs out for the year in the same day, Najee and Conner both.
And both not like, he's going to miss a couple weeks and then he'll be back type injuries. And you hate to see it for both of those guys who, we're rooting for both of those guys' success as long as they're not playing the Steelers. Big opportunity for Trey Benson, though.
Yes, and I didn't love him coming out of Florida State. I mean, everyone knew he was one of the first 2 or 3 backs taken in that class, and he's a good prospect. He wasn't my favorite, but he's big and he's fast, and that's a good start. But to his credit, since being drafted, he's become a lot more well-rounded in the passing game. So I think he's an easy starter now. I mean, there's little to no competition, and he was eating into Connors more than he ever had before. All the buzz around him is really, really good. Actually, in both my leagues, I have him. Not because I expected Connor to get hurt. He was sitting there on the board. I'm like, well, if he does, he's super valuable.
Sure.
I'm pretty happy about that part. I mean, I think he could. I'm not saying he's a league winner for you, but he's a starter every week for sure.
Everybody needs depth at running back in their fantasy leagues.
Oh yeah.
And
you got it. Connor owners that didn't have him handcuffs probably in trouble.
What if I told you, Matt, that I have Judkins, Benson, and Omari and Hampton?
Okay. Well, they all got huge bumps this week.
I've had a rough start in that league.
I bet, because none of them are doing great now.
And I don't want to say like, I'm because it's all because of injuries. But I'm looking at those 3 and I'm like, it's go time, fellas. Let's get this moving in the right direction.
And I do think the younger backs in general are about ready to pick up the pace.
It's time.
And another one to mention just is Travion Henderson. With all the fumbling that went on around him, are they just going to hand it to him? I mean, they did at the end of the game. After Ramondre fumbled twice, and Gibson fumbled once, it was like Henderson for like 90% of the snaps against the Steelers.
Yes.
Is that what they'll do, or will they say, Ramondre, you got another chance? He's got a terrible fumbling history, though.
Big time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like impossible to ignore.
Yeah.
It's not just a popcorn issue, as Mike Tomlin would say.
No,
it's been a trend.
It's been a trend. He's going to have to earn his way back on. So in both my redraft leagues, I have both of them. That wasn't my plan going in. I was really high on Henderson. So I don't know if I'll start Henderson or not. You know, like Henderson versus Benson, I'll probably put Benson in.
Sure.
Or I would put Judkins ahead of him. I'd certainly put Hampton ahead of him, guys we mentioned. But part of me, when you have both, you almost want an injury or somebody to get benched. You know what I mean? Like if Ramondre all of a sudden is not touching the ball anymore and it's all Henderson, sign me up, man. That could be a league winner.
And on my other big money team, I have both of those running backs as well too.
Do you?
And so I'm like, let's get
this
Travion
week might
in
be
here.
tough, but by week 5 or 6, it might be clear that he's going to get all the touches.
Matt, a couple high, like typical second round picks in most leagues that have underperformed to this point that I want to get your thoughts on. We'll run through a few of these guys to close down the fantasy football focus. Brian Thomas, first up.
Yeah.
He was the average 8th wide receiver drafted in leagues. He is currently the 53rd ranked fantasy football wide receiver.
Extremely talented. We have a coaching change going on there. For the second year in a row, the Jags lead the league in drops. And there's a new stat that I don't reference much because I don't 100% believe it. But, you know, incompletions due to wide receiver error. And like last year, the Jets had a ton of them, made Rodgers look better than he was better than his stats because the receivers let him down a lot, drops or don't get 2 feet in or whatever. I don't know exactly how they deem it, but whatever. But Jacksonville's the top of the league in that. And I also think his roles changed a little bit, you know, that they're having him with more deep in-breaking routes. And there's been a couple that he's short-armed and doesn't look super thrilled to be that type of receiver. He's more of an outside size, speed, and he's really, really good at it. But if the owners, you know, I mean, a lot of these guys, I bet I'll say the same thing. If the owner that drafted them is disheartened and you can buy them at 70, 80 cents on the dollar, I'm still in.
Absolutely. I think that's a good way to put it. You touched on this a little bit in terms of the rookie running backs, but Ashton Genty, the average 6th running back drafted in fantasy football leagues. He's the 30th ranked right now. Give it time, he'll get going, or is there more concern there?
There's both. He's a tough one for me because my main league, I had the 11th pick. I took him at 11. And there's 2 things that are just really worrisome is in terms of hit at first contact. We talked about that with Steelers, that their number's too low. The Raiders are like the worst in the league right now.
I think I said this.
Nowhere to go.
I think I said this yesterday, but if you think the Steelers' offensive line has struggled through 3 games, go watch the Raiders tape. It's brutal.
It is brutal. And I'm sure they're also at the bottom of the league in yards per carry, but he's earning every single yard. That doesn't blow you away. You shouldn't be super shocked. But, like, the thing that makes me crazy is people probably don't even know who, like, Dylan Laub is. I mean, he's a mid-round pick from a year ago, but he's got a lot of the third down work. So Genty drafted that high. Was a great receiver at Boise State. He's not exclusively the third down back, but if someone's cutting into his third down back work and catches, something has to change, you know? So that's a tough one.
Couple more here. Drake London, averaged being the 9th wide receiver drafted. He is currently the 44th ranked wide receiver.
Yeah, that one doesn't worry me at all because 2 weeks ago he got hurt and was questionable for this past week, played through it and kind of was a decoy. And plus, they were so terrible this year, this past week. Penix couldn't hit the broadside of a barn.
He played real bad.
He played really poorly.
I mean, they lost by 30 to the Carolina Panthers.
I think London will be fine. I think Penix will be better. So that one doesn't worry me.
Last one. I think this one worries some people. Chase Brown, average 8th running back to come off the board. He is currently the 33rd ranked.
The thing he has going for him is owns that backfield. I mean, there's a couple backs, and Jaylen Warren might be one of them now. Hampton's definitely one of them.
Over 80% of the share. Yeah.
Right. I mean, Jonathan Taylor's one of those guys now where they're not sharing hardly at all, and that goes back to last year. But I never thought Brown was a great prospect. He just never faced a stack box. You know, whenever last year.
Sure.
And they didn't even run the ball well with Burrow, that little bit that they did see him. He concerns me. I mean, yes, I guess I'm starting him still, but he's at that point where if there's a tie between him and somebody else, Benson, that you don't quite know about, I'd probably take the other guy. Because I don't think he's a dynamic talent that's going to get a ton of yards on his own.
No, and now defenses are just going to queue on him.
That's the thing.
We slow down that run game,
Yeah.
make Jake Browning one-dimensional.
Yeah, now they're just so much easier to play against.
Okay, I lied. One more.
All right.
Same last name, different pew. Same last name, different team, A.J. Brown.
Well, he blew up this past week.
He sure did.
Right,
but
that was promising.
And I think there's promise there, but he was the average 10th wide receiver drafted. He is currently the 38th ranked.
Okay.
Not time to panic?
No, but him and Smith, when you drafted them, if you didn't realize that their ADP was baked in, that there's going to be some games that team just doesn't throw the ball much, then shame on you. If he was in a different situation, he'd be there with like Lamb and Chase and all those guys.
Yeah.
So you get him at wide receiver 10 on your draft because there's going to be 3 or 4 games a year that they just run the ball and win, and now it was getting a little scary there before this past week, but it was really promising to me that when the Rams had control of that game, they just said, we're throwing it to that dude.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's a monster, and he is a fantastic player. So my thoughts really haven't changed on him since like fantasy draft day.
There's your fantasy football focus here for your Week 4 action heading into the final week of the September slate before we turn the calendar to October. When we come back on the other side, it's time for Tuesday Power Rankings here on The Drive.
Fun.
Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson, Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Ranking Tuesdays here on the program. Good timing before we take off to get in maybe kind of one last around the league view and conversation here on The Drive. Matt, as always, you know the drill. The loyal listeners know the drill. We start at number 32.
So what's crazy about these bottom teams is we're already 3 games in. Quarterback gets benched, put the rookie in. Play callers getting assignment change.
NFL
seats
stands
getting
for
hot.
not for long, man.
Right? Yeah, it's just it blows me away every year.
It happens very quickly in this league.
And we went through all the 0-3 teams today on a podcast, and basically Houston's the only one I have any hope for of being like close to being a potential playoff.
And their
team.
schedule
Right.
is crazy difficult in October.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
They get Tennessee at home this weekend. That should
And then
get you
it's
a
a
win. But
disaster,
then it's
right.
like Baltimore and San Francisco and Seattle.
Yeah.
And a lot of those are on the road. Good luck.
Yeah, they're swimming upstream.
Number 32, the New Orleans Saints.
I'm fine with it.
I think so too. I could see Miami here, but I also do think that to give them credit, they showed some signs of life up in
At least
Buffalo.
that was their best game, where the Saints just played their worst game.
Right.
That's enough of a tiebreaker for me.
That's a good way to put it. But yeah, Saints at 32, Dolphins at 31. Saints drop 2 spots, Dolphins move up 1. What's interesting to me is that the Giants are at number 30 after being number 28 last week. I still feel like they are not terrible.
I do too.
But they got to figure out what's going on at quarterback, and Jackson Dart going to get a crack at it this week.
It's as good a time as any. I mean, whatever. I mean, Wilson's not going to get you where you need to be and dig you out of this 0-3 hole. So Dart, I guess, has been super impressive, and it might not go well. Who knows? But
they got the Chargers. That's a tough first matchup for
they
a
have the
young
hardest
quarterback.
schedule in the league, too. I mean, that screams coaching change, and I can't say I'm super impressed with their coaching staff either.
No, again, in terms of hot seats and things like that.
Yeah, it's warming up fast.
Pay attention there in East Rutherford. Number 29, the Tennessee Titans. All these teams were still in 0-3 territory. I don't mind this. Like I think the Titans are gonna knock off somebody that we don't expect at some point soon. It'll be a long season, but Cam Ward seems to have some juice.
Yes. Oh, Cam Ward to me is really exciting. And the same is true for Dart, to be honest with you, that just as a fan of the sport, I hope these teams don't ruin what look like promising first-round picks from this year. And by that, I mean, could the Giants fire everybody? Probably will happen. The new guy says, I don't really like Dart. They have the 3rd pick in the draft, and they take Nussmeier or something. And then all of a sudden it's like, dude, where are we at?
We've seen a lot of that lately.
It's happened a million times.
We've seen the Browns do that. We've seen the Jets do that.
Yeah.
We've seen the Panthers do that.
And Tennessee, could they be? I mean, they're the ones that are making the change in play caller. The head coach is no longer calling plays, which probably said the owner said, you're not calling plays anymore. It's probably not his idea. Well, that's like step one of your seat being on fire.
28, the New York Jets still looking for their first win. They've had,
they're pretty close.
Pretty good performance against the Steelers. Okay, you get blown out against Buffalo, the big dog in your division, and then maybe even should have beat the Bucks.
Yeah,
down in Tampa Bay this past Sunday.
They were one of those teams that came down to the last minute kick, and
I think they're much better than these other 0-3 teams. Maybe much better isn't a stretch, but I think they are better than the rest of these 0-3 teams.
Yeah, and the conversation we finished the podcast with today was, I asked my co-host, I'm like, would you rather have all the 0-3 teams minus the Texans or only the Texans? And we both said I'd still rather have the Texans in terms of chances to make the playoffs. I got 5 shots or whatever it is versus 1. I'd still take the Texans. But if any of the teams we just mentioned turn things around, get to 9 wins, somehow sneak in as a 7 seed, I would pick the Jets.
Concur.
Yeah.
27, the New England Patriots.
I'm sure they're kicking themselves like crazy, and I always talk about if this was Patriots Nation Radio, just can't turn the ball over, you'd be in so much better shape. I don't think they're particularly good, though. I mean, I just think their roster leaves a lot to be desired still.
I think there's a really good chance they found the quarterback.
Yes.
But other than that, they need a lot of work.
Like in the power ranking world, I think they'll hover around this neighborhood all year.
Yes. 26, the Las Vegas Raiders. After another tough one against the Commanders.
I don't know if any team we mentioned should be ahead of them, but I maybe would have the Raiders lower. I think they're in a bad place right now. They don't run the ball at all.
They can't run the ball. Ashton Genty is just getting hit behind their offensive line, as we've discussed, is terrible. Brock Bowers is not 100%.
Not even close. Back 7 on the defense is maybe the worst in the league.
Like
maybe the Jets go past them in a week.
Sure.
So, I mean, those type of teams, right?
Geno Smith responded after a terrible game in week 2.
Yeah.
He had nearly 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. It still meant nothing.
And it meant nothing, right?
It meant nothing.
I was excited about the direction the whole organization was going, but it's not showing up on the field yet at all.
No, it is not. 25, feeling good about themselves, up 6 spots after beating one of the best teams in the league, the Cleveland Browns.
All on defense.
I mean, it's a very good defense.
It's definitely right now a top 5 defense. It carries a lot of weight.
Rookies are playing well.
Yeah. They play a lot of man. It's aggressive. Garrett's a star. Yeah, that's where the Browns should be.
24, I think, potential unravel situation. We've talked about this a little bit with the Dolphins. I think the Cowboys might be in that same boat. They're 24th this week.
Yeah. Their shootout win versus the Giants doesn't look super impressive.
I mean, Russell Wilson playing a great game against them and then getting benched. Caleb Williams is looking bad against everybody else and playing a great game against them.
I'm seeing a theme here, yeah.
And with CeeDee Lamb, likely on the shelf for a while. It's not great. Wouldn't call it great.
No.
23, the Houston Texans are at 23. 0-3. They fall 6 spots this week.
I know where I'd slot them, but I think that's right.
I do too. I mean, I
have them over every team we mentioned.
I certainly think that they're better than the Raiders, even though the Raiders are 1-2. Better than the Cowboys, even though the Cowboys are 1-2. But they got to start stacking some wins, man. The defense is really nice. I think they have some pieces on offense, but you are what your record says you are, Bill Parcells.
Yeah, and the O-line's still a problem. They don't run the ball well. I'm worried that they're ruining Stroud. But one side of the ball is quite good.
down 7 spots this week after I think the worst performance that we saw of any team in the NFL is the Atlanta Falcons. They fall to the Panthers by 30-0 down to 22.
Like, this is a weird conversation because I've done power ranks and they're way harder than you think, especially once you get into the year. Should the Falcons be below the Panthers? They just got walloped by them.
Yes.
So I guess so.
It doesn't mean 4 weeks from now they have to be, but right now they should be.
I mean, 4 days ago they were way ahead of them, I assume. Panthers were in contention for 32, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Just because they had one good game, now all of a sudden they're going to be higher? I'm actually looking over your shoulder. I see that the Panthers are next.
So the Falcons
You have to have them above them, I guess. But, yeah.
The Falcons dropped 7 spots, the biggest drop this week. The Panthers up 8 spots, the highest climb this week. Because Cleveland was up 6 spots. So highest climb this week for Carolina. They're at 21 after that shellacking of Atlanta.
So I say this every year. I mean, it's really easy to be critical of power ranks, and I urge everyone to do their own because they're really hard.
They're tough.
But, if Houston plays Carolina, they're favored by a touchdown.
5.5 points.
Yeah. No, even if it's in Carolina.
That's why these are, I think, so fun to do on a week-to-week basis. Number 20, down 4 spots, and I think they could fall certainly more here. It's the Cincinnati Bengals.
Like, the Falcons are favored over the Bengals right now. Houston's favored over the Bengals right now.
Cowboys might be favored over
Cowboys
the Bengals
is close.
right now.
And that would be a total shootout.
Two bad defenses, but at least the Cowboys have the quarterback right now.
Right. I mean, I'll take Dak against Browning.
Totally.
Yeah, right. I mean, Lamb's out. That's not if he weren't. But, yeah, splitting hairs here.
Number 19, the Chicago Bears. After
so what number are these? 19?
Showing some life. Yeah, that's a little high for me. But
I'm okay with that. But, boy, 20-32 is
bad.
Really bad right now.
Real bad.
Worse than usual at this point.
Big time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
There's not much hope.
Like, aside from Houston, I don't think anybody in there really has much of a prayer of changing their fortunes.
Like, I think Atlanta should still be optimistic of their young quarterback, and maybe he's had a bad day.
It might still result in a 7-10 record this season, but you're feeling good about your future come December.
Yeah. Like, I think Atlanta will end up being out of that level. They'll be the 18th team when it's all said and done or whatever. But we just named 12 teams that are whoa. Like, again, boy, we had this conversation deep yesterday. You folks that think the Steelers are the worst team in the league, the 12 we just spit out aren't even close. You know what I mean? Right.
Cardinals at 18, Matt. They're a weird one for me to evaluate.
Yeah.
I mean, James Conner being out is big. Marvin Harrison Jr. has still not taken off like everyone expected him to out of Ohio State.
I just think Kyler is what he is, too.
Kyler is what he is.
Yeah, I think that book's probably written. That's about where they belong. And of the NFC West teams, I don't know how I would rank them other than I know the Cardinals would be last.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
17, the Jacksonville Jaguars, up 6 spots this week after taking down Houston. They had that disappointing loss in Cincinnati, but they're 2-1, Matt. Jacksonville moving in the right direction.
They're in the hunt for playoff stuff, and they're working through a lot as well. They're not an easy watch at all right now. I'm okay with them there. Them and Arizona are about the same to me.
At 16 and 15, the two foes who will face off in Dublin on Sunday. The Steelers are at 16, up 4 spots from last week. The Vikings are at 15, also up 4 spots from last week.
Okay, that's probably where I'd have the Steelers.
I think I'd have Minnesota a little bit higher. Not crazy
I think that's
higher,
hard on Minnesota.
I know they just walloped Cincinnati.
Like some of I'm working on Matt's stats, and some of their year-long stuff isn't pretty. Yards per play and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think they're better now than they've been. They're healthier. And, Addison's back, and I think that they're harder to play. This is the worst week to play them, in my opinion. I think they're playing well.
I completely agree. You are getting Minnesota at probably the worst possible
I'd rather
time.
play them 2 weeks ago.
Yes. Number 14, falling 4 spots out of the top 10 for the first time this season. It's the Denver Broncos. Now just 2-8 in one-score games since the start of last season.
Nick's is struggling.
Yes, he is.
I'm fine with that.
I am too. I'm not closing the book on them, but they're struggling right now.
Yeah, they're figuring things out too, especially on offense and with a young quarterback.
Number 13, I think one of the surprise in a good way teams of this NFL season. It's the Seattle Seahawks.
I wanted to mention this. So we reference EPA a lot here, but I'm also a big fan of DVOA, and Dale and I have talked about it a lot over the years. So our listeners probably are familiar, but started with Football Outsiders, Aaron Schatz. That's their version of doing things. And it comes out every Tuesday morning. I went to FTN Fantasy, who bought Football Outsiders. Seattle's their number one team.
Wow.
So
just
maybe
based off the forget everything else, what we've seen
weeks.
in 3 games.
Yep, how they played for 3 weeks. It's a top 5. It's not number 1, 2, or 3. Top 5 defense and offense. That Steelers loss doesn't look quite as bad through that lens.
I think Seattle has been one of the more impressive teams so far this season, particularly of the non-3-0 teams as well, too, I would say.
Right. Who's been better than you think? Seattle's near the top of that list, right?
Seattle and Indy. I mean,
Indy's number one.
At the top of that list. Number 12, undefeated, the only team that has beaten Seattle this season, navigating still despite injuries, playing well, the 49ers.
Yeah, and they just lost Bosa for the year.
That, to me, though, is the big kicker.
Yeah. I'm not sure how much you can withstand. The other stuff, you're going to get Kittle back in a week or two, and Purdy in a week or two, and maybe even Ayuk, but Bosa's a tough one to overcome.
Number 11, in the same spot they were last week, finally got their first win. It's the Kansas City Chiefs.
Fine. I still have my doubts, but okay.
What if Patrick Mahomes hadn't stripped that ball back from Bobby Okereke?
Yeah, I know.
Chiefs might be 0-3.
I probably wouldn't have moved them either, though. They won a game they're supposed to win, but it wasn't a blowout, and they weren't all overly impressive,
Number 10, down 3 spots. I mean, I get it, but they also lost to a 3-0 defending Super Bowl champion on the road, the Rams, at number 10.
I wouldn't move them down. Sometimes you
so.
move down just because other teams have to move up.
Sure,
but
like the Colts. Like the Colts jumped them because they're 3-0, but I still don't know if I'd have the Colts above the Rams, but maybe you should with the way they're playing, because this is supposed to be a week-to-week power rankings. This isn't like a big picture
I know
how we feel about the teams. It's how they're playing right now.
I just think the Rams would probably be favored against the Colts.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
I think the Rams would probably be favored against 28 teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
27 teams in the NFL.
They weren't embarrassing last week. In fact, their stock maybe should have went up.
The Eagles did what Super Bowl champions tend to do at home.
In Philly.
Yeah,
you got 2 kicks.
Block a field goal, find a way to win the game.
Right.
But that, I don't think, reflects very negatively on the Rams. They continue to be like the one team that really seems to give the Eagles trouble.
Yeah.
Although the Eagles find a way to get it done against them.
Kick themselves how they can't finish them.
Yeah, they've won the Eagles have won 9 of their last 10 against McVay and the Rams. It's spooky. Number 9 is the 3-0 Indianapolis Colts.
I'm fine with them in this neighborhood, but I would have the Rams ahead of them.
Concur.
Yeah.
Interesting one to me. The Commanders are at number 8. I don't know about that.
That's too high for me.
Way too high for me.
They'd be behind the Rams. They'd be behind the Colts. Maybe even a couple of Kansas City Chiefs would be behind them.
Seattle and the Niners, maybe?
Yeah. Seattle's playing better than Washington.
They certainly are.
Yeah.
I realize Mariota had a good performance, and they kind of beat up on the Rams, but I'm still not sold on the Commanders being anywhere close to what they were last year. I don't think they're terrible, but
I don't either. But they would not be in my top 10.
I don't think so. Down 4 spots to the lowest they've been all season, the Baltimore Ravens, after, another bad turnover by Derrick Henry, another frustrating loss for Baltimore.
Yeah, and what would worry me most for Baltimore is they lost at both lines of scrimmage. I mean, how often do you see Lamar get sacked 7 times?
Crazy.
Yeah.
Like never.
Never, ever, 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 right. And they couldn't run the ball all that well. They couldn't stop the run. So maybe Baltimore's not quite as good as we thought. I mean, I thought they were the best team in the league coming in the season. And now they're 1-2. Both their losses are very excusable. I mean, they were against great teams.
Sure.
I get that.
In tight games, yeah.
Yeah. But I don't like losing at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball.
Down to number 6, I think that's a little harsh, but it was a very strange loss for sure for the Green Bay Packers, down 2 spots.
And they lost because they couldn't block the Browns front, basically. I mean, the Browns defense made that into a total rock fight. Packers kept losing offensive linemen. I would have them a couple spots higher. I still think they're in the top tier.
I think so, too. Holding steady at number 5 after moving to 3-0 and another win, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
That's great.
Couple spots too high for me,
Me
but they're
too.
definitely in the top 10.
Like, I'd have them ahead of Washington. I'd have them ahead of a couple of teams we mentioned recently, but I think I'm still having Baltimore and definitely Green Bay.
Green Bay ahead
Tampa.
of them. So, yeah.
And, by the way, they just lost Mike Evans, at least for a couple weeks, a hamstring.
And remember, Kalijah Kancey's out for the season as well, too.
Yeah, they got O-line stuff.
A couple big losses for Tampa Bay, but they're 3-0 and they're playing well. The team that is up 5 spots this week, highest they've been this year. I think probably the highest they've been in power rankings for a long time. It's the undefeated LA Chargers.
I'd have them over everyone we talked about so far.
I think so too. I think I might even have them ahead of maybe the Detroit Lions, who check in at number 3 here on the list. But okay, I'm splitting hairs at that point.
Yeah, Detroit was pretty impressive last night.
Detroit was very impressive last night.
Awful place to play. And
impressive the week before, putting up 50 plus and beating the Bears by 4 touchdowns. But yeah, like you mentioned, 7 sacks of Lamar Jackson, the way that defense is playing, the way that they're continuing to run the football despite some key losses to that offensive line in the offseason. I think people writing the obituary for the Detroit Lions was a little too premature.
1,000%. And Goff's numbers weren't mind-blowing, but he was still quite good too,
And then locked in at the top here like they still have been for the last few weeks. Buffalo stays at number 2. Philly stays at number 1.
Yeah. I mean, Philly winning the game to me isn't as impressive for their spot to be number 1 as being able to shift into a passing team when you had to. Playing with the lead, they always have the lead, and for the first time in a while, oh no, we got to come back. And they should.
And that was the big question about them. About Hurts and
Right. We talked about A.J. Brown in the fantasy segment. So they showed they could throw when they need to. And so that was a box that hadn't quite been checked yet this year.
I've got a lot of friends, family, old coworkers in Philadelphia from my 3 years there and my wife's home stomping grounds. Boy, were they letting it be known about some Jalen Hurts disrespect in the aftermath of that comeback.
Oh, okay.
Everybody that I follow from Philadelphia on social media is like, post your Jalen Hurts passing chart now. What about the Eagles not being able to throw the football now? What do you got to say about Jalen now? Hey, it's impressive. It's impressive.
Yeah.
That was, like you said, that was kind of the one, can they get it done from this type of position? And they proved they could, not against some schlubs, against another really good team as well.
And it's hard to find concerns with that team. I mean, they're pretty darn good. Hey, top to bottom.
Maybe they're peaking too early. Maybe that's the only concern. But are they just that good and that's who they are? I think,
they're strong.
I think that might be the case. So there's your Week 4 power rankings. One more segment to go before Matt and I don't even want to say close it down for a couple days, but just relocate for a couple days. We'll give some final thoughts before we fly off to Dublin. On the other side, Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson, it's The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Final few minutes here from HQ before we move this whole operation over to Ireland. A reminder, no shows Wednesday or Thursday, but we will have special edition 3-hour shows for you on Friday and Saturday. Special guests on location at Fitzsimon's Temple Bar right there in the Temple Bar district of downtown Dublin. It's going to be fantastic. We can't wait. We're excited. Matt, before we close this thing down for a couple days here and relocate, we talked a lot. All right, I don't know about a lot, but we talked plenty at the start of the show about the huge matchup of Aaron Rodgers, Brian Flores, the mental aspect of those two and what they're going to try and do and counter with each other over the course of 60 minutes at Croke Park on Sunday. What else is at the forefront of your mind as it relates to, hey, whoever has more success here is going to have a higher likelihood of winning the game?
It's funny because I was just emailing back the crew that we do the video for we have to record it tomorrow, Wednesday, since we're not going to be here. That, hey, I'll take Rodgers versus Flores, and I'll take the Vikings tackles versus Herbig and Watt, unless anybody wants them. Next on my list of high priorities would definitely be Steelers corners versus Vikings receivers. I mean, I urge people, don't take Justin Jefferson the slightest bit lightly. I mean, if you look in Matt's stats, I mean, not only does he have more receiving yards per game than anyone in the history of the league.
Wow.
It's by like 4 or 5 yards.
Wow.
Puka Nacua is 2, and he's at like 80, and Jefferson's at like 85. I mean, we're talking about Jerry Rice and Randy Moss. I mean, like the history of the league.
Puka Nacua has a future Hall of Fame quarterback throwing him the football.
Right. And
Justin Jefferson has not had
a variety. I mean, it's insane. Chase is 3rd. I mean, like people throw the ball more now.
Sure.
I mean, we get that.
Sure.
It's not going to be Stallworth or Largent or somebody from that era, but he's number one by like 5 yards. Addison comes back. Hawkinson showed new life last week too. I mean, middle of the field, tight end stuff that they couldn't handle with Henry. Hawkinson's better. A key that I'm not going to speak for Rob, but he's brought up a few times. He wants to see Steeler tight ends versus average linebackers. They're certainly not household names at linebackers. Ivan Pace is a nice player, but I think the middle of the field is okay for them. And we need to see more out of the Steeler tight end room. I think that's a good one. And I also think it's really interesting just overall with the Vikings. Teams don't do this commonly. They totally found 3 new starters on the interior linemen, guard, center, guard. Boom, all from outside the organization. 2 of them are Colts. One of them was their first-round pick this year. And 2 new starters on the total interior D-line. They go get Javon Hargrave, and they get Allen from the Commanders. I mean, these are big-time acquisitions. I mean, all their beef is new.
It's like we talked about a lot leading up to this season. Steelers would have a new leading passer, new leading rusher, new leading receiver.
Yeah.
And how rare that is. I imagine that type of turnover on both sides of the trenches is pretty rare as well,
All new
too.
interior linemen.
All new interior linemen
right?
on both sides of the ball is pretty rare as well, too. So can the Steelers' defensive line maybe take a little bit of an advantage of that? Can the Steelers' offensive line maybe take a little bit of advantage of that?
I mean, they look like upgrades across the board from the Vikings that won 15 games last year.
Right. And we obviously, in this parish, we're familiar with Javon Hargrave. You better be familiar with Allen, who's been one of the better defensive linemen, throughout his time in Washington. This is Matt.
I didn't mention Wentz on purpose. I just don't know where he is in his career or what to expect. I mean, I think he's in a great situation.
I expect him to manage the game and not make any mistakes and keep them out of bad situations.
I would imagine he's been a wild card through his career. He's been on a lot of different teams. But we talked about this a lot with like McCarthy, and it's as good a nest as there is for a young quarterback as you'll ever find.
Totally.
And McCarthy didn't really take advantage of it through 2 games. It's probably a good situation for Wentz, too. I did a long podcast on this, and we can talk about this in our 3 hours overseas. There's a lot of examples right now of players that go just to a really good environment that were highly drafted quarterbacks. And Wentz is older than these dudes, but like Daniel Jones spends a year in Minnesota. Now he's good. Darnold spends a year with the Niners. Now he's good with the Vikes.
Baker Mayfield.
Baker's one of the best examples. There's tons of them, these highly drafted quarterbacks that go marinate with a great quarterback mind, and then they get their life back on track. Well, Wentz is in a really good situation, too. He's older than those dudes, but, I mean, those guys all have talent. They weren't drafted in the top 10 for no reason,
It would be very interesting if Wentz strings together a few strong performances and then McCarthy gets healthy. Then what do you do?
Then what do you do?
O'Connell was asked about that this week, and as you can imagine, he kind of gave a non-answer like we don't cross that bridge until we get to it. Like that's still too early to even put out there as a hypothetical, which he's probably right. But
if they, I'm pretty sure if they blow out the Bengals, beat the Steelers overseas, stay overseas, beat the Browns, and I don't know how you go away from Wentz if that's what you do.
I agree.
You know what I mean? You at least got to start rolling with them.
I would completely agree.
Yeah.
Especially if they continue to turn in some performances like they did this past Sunday. But hopefully that is not going to be the case, and the Steelers are going to slam that door shut at Croke Park and have Minnesota questioning where they're going as an offense come next week and come the month of October. But that will do it for us stateside, Matt.
Yep.
I'll see you at the airport tomorrow. We will talk to Yins from Dublin. Come see us again. Fitzsimmons Temple Bar if you're in the area. If not, you can listen along to all of our coverage. Between us, between the DVE Morning Show, between all the other SNR programming, it's going to be like 7, 8, 9 hours of live shows every single day. So plenty of great stuff to come on the back half of the week. And then, of course, a historic clash between the Steelers and the Vikings at Croke Park in Dublin. Big thanks to Chris Adamski for joining us today. Our video producer, Mr. TV, Tyler V. Happy birthday, 32 years old today.
Woo.
By the way, to our guy, Mr. TV. Hope he has a lovely evening. And for Matt Williamson, I'm Wes Uhler. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you soon from across the pond. As always, you know where to find us. It's on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. It's Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network.